So as you can see, I've come outside for this video because quite frankly, it's too hot in the office. It's 9 o'clock and it's just cooled off. We've had a record breaking heat wave in the last few days. So I thought I'd come out in the cool and do something a bit different. You can see the containers in the background here. That's the other part of the business that I've developed over the last 18 months and moved slightly away from the caravan side of things, but I'm still keeping my hand in. That's why I'm doing these videos. And this video is, again, I hate to bang on about it, but it's the Elddis thing again. And it's based on the last video that I did where I was quite positive about what I thought that the caravan would look like, it being kind of a hybrid of what Elddis have been doing in the last few years, and also it coming out of a factory on the continent, so the build quality would be good. But I think in my kind of excitement and possibly I could say it now, naivety, I could see this caravan that I thought would be absolutely, you know, game changing, that it would look like we have had the Elddis in the past few years, and it would function in the same way, and it would use all the same kind of materials and everything, but then also being produced on the continent with that build quality. So that was the kind of feeling I got. But having spoken to a colleague of mine recently who's a little bit more in the loop with the factory, because they are an Elddis dealer, after he saw my video, then I went to see him and we were talking about it and have a conversation. It turns out that isn't kind of how he saw it at all. And then I got to thinking, well, actually, yeah, I think, why would they do that? When you start thinking about the economics of producing the same kind of caravan over in another country and then shipping it over here, and it's effectively the same but built differently, there'd be no economic reason for doing that, because it's going to cost a fortune to gear up to be able to produce a caravan that they're not used to producing over there. Otherwise they would have done it a long time ago. So then I started thinking, well, so what is it going to look like? Now the alarming thing was, and this is all kind of conjecture, I don't know if any of this is going to be true, because I don't think anyone knows. Obviously the factory must have got an idea of what the product is going to be, what kind of a hybrid it will be, because they must have had conversations about it. But obviously we don't know. He didn't know. He just got the feeling that what I was talking about was a mile away from where this product is going to be, even to the point where he wasn't sure that the door would be on the UK side. And I was kind of like, well, that didn't make any sense to me. And this is why this is a kind of a two-part call out, really. Is number one, the call out is to you to find out whether what I'm going to say you think is viable, and whether you would actually buy a product that I'm going to describe how I think it could actually be now. And the other thing is kind of a shout out to Elddis, and maybe a warning, because I've been in the industry a long time and I've tried to sell product, all kinds of product in the past, whether it's continental with the door on the incorrect side, and again I'll go into it a little bit more in detail in a second. But also I'd like to say that this is just my opinion. I don't, obviously I've said this before, I don't build caravans, I don't run a factory, I don't know that kind of thing. The one thing I do know is that in the last 25, 30 years, I've been selling caravans to the public, and I know the UK market, and I know what they like and I know what they don't like. So that's the one side of it, is, do you agree with what I'm about to say? The other side is, again, that this is kind of something for Elddis to think about, and they probably have already thought about all this, and there's much more cleverer people out there, and more intelligent people that would probably have looked into all these thoughts that I'm going to talk about in a second. So my initial thought, like I said, was that I could see the caravan of last year that the Elddis have been producing, taken over to Germany, and all the tools going over there, and them gearing up over there to be able to produce that same product and then bring it over here. But it was built by the continental way, so it was built by the Polish, I think it is, or Germans, I think it was Polish, so that the way that they build it was going to be slightly different, and therefore we would be able to put that quality into the build, but it still looked like an Elddis. And like I said, having thought about that, there'd be no point doing that. You might as well invest in the infrastructure in the UK, which is what they've been doing for the past 4 or 5 years, and getting it to the point where actually I think, you know, like I said in a couple of videos before, it was really good, and also the feeling of the way that they're dealing with any issues was really good as well. And that, I keep banging on about this data that I saw, but that kind of proved a point. So then I thought, well, that can't happen, otherwise, you know, there would be no point picking everything up and going over to another country and producing it over there and then bringing it back over here. That is a very expensive way to do things. So then the natural kind of thought would be, well, what are they actually just going to take the product out of that factory that's been built for the past X amount of years and slap an Elddis badge on it and do a bit of styling? So there's a sliding scale here, and on one end of the scale is that utopian kind of caravan that I was talking about in the last video, which is, it looks exactly like the Elddis does, with the nice rounded panels and the upholstery and everything that we're used to, but it's being built over there, and the build quality is going to be a lot better and a lot higher quality, so we don't have the issues that they've been having, which actually, like I said before, you know, I think they've kind of weeded a lot of those issues out. So that's on one end of the scale, this perfect caravan that looks like it does, it always has done, but it's being built by the people over there in a different way so that we're not having any issues. On the other end of the scale is getting a product out of the factory that they've been building for the past, you know, 10-15 years or whatever, and not changing it, but slapping an Elddis badge on the front and then putting a few decals on it, and then maybe putting a colour change of upholstery in there. So those are the two ends of the scale. Now, only obviously Elddis are going to know, or the Erwin Hymer Group, sorry, are going to know where in that kind of line that this product that's going to be coming out, you know, next year is going to sit. Now, from my point of view, having sold things, and I'll give you a little bit of a background of, you know, how it was back in the day. When I was with Fleetwood, they got taken over by Adria, and then they bought the Sonata over, which is basically an Altea. And in the first year, it was kind of rushed. So we had this entry-level product because Fleetwood didn't have an entry-level product. They had a kind of a Clubman and a high-end. They didn't have a kind of at the time a Discovery kind of van that they could compete with Bailey and Swift on with the Charisma. So they brought out the Altea, and they called it the Sonata. I think it was based on, yeah, it was the Altea or the Adora, one of the two. But anyway, it was brought over, and it was just kind of like, well, there's a Sonata, off you go with it. Door was on the wrong side. I think even the very first one still had stippled effects on the sides, and it was basically you know, a continental product and badged for the UK, and we just couldn't sell them for love nor money, because people would look at the doors on the wrong side, and that would be the first, you know, no, and obviously the stippled sides would be a no as well, so we couldn't sell them. So then they changed it so that the door was on the correct side, and I think in the second year, I think we had them without the stippled sides. They'd made it smooth, which was a big bonus. So when we first saw them, we thought, oh great, but they hadn't changed the table. So I remember being at the show, and people would come in and they'd go right, and they'd look at the camera. Oh, this is lovely. This is really nice. They'd turn around and they'd see the table, and say, well, where'd you put the table? And we'd say, well, it just folds down and it just stays there. And it was this great big chunky thing you could hardly pick up. And they go, well, there's no chest there then. So it was a horseshoe shaped lounge. And I said, yeah, that, you know, that's how they come. And that's it. Game over. End of conversation. Out the door. No, thank you very much. So that was another thing that they hadn't realised that they had to change. So then that got changed, and then we started to sell a few, and the quality was very good. And the one advantage they did have was that the family layouts had a larger bunk, and some of the layouts that came out from the continent, especially with the Sonatas and things like that, were copied by other manufacturers in the UK because they did so well. For around about £10,500–11,000, you had a well-built caravan that fitted a market absolutely to perfection. We couldn't sell the things quick enough. They were brilliant. And like I said, they were the layouts were copied by a lot of the UK manufacturers. So we have seen this before. So I know what it's like to try and sell a continental product into the UK market, and this is why when I went to Hobby several years ago and they were trying to get into the UK market, I had that kind of knowledge in my head, and I said, look, there's no point bringing that over and just putting a badge on it and saying, you know, here you go, UK people, you buy it, because they just won't. We are very specific as to what we want. And I'm sure the Erwin Hymer Group know all this. And so again, it's just this is my thought, but it just got me thinking as to where in the scale it can economically be viable to produce a caravan and bring it over. And then when you look at the lines on the factory, I said I haven't been to the factory, I don't know what that's like, but when I went to the hobby factory, they physically could not build a van with the door on our side, because I think the wall was there, and it was quite a small line, so they couldn't make it so that it was, you know, viable to actually make the door on the other side, whether they wanted to or not. So then I started thinking, I think, well, actually it is a shrinking market. What could they actually really achieve? You know, is it 500 caravans? Is it 1,000 caravans? And is it viable to produce something like I was thinking, by, you know, redoing the complete complete production line and maybe taking the kit over there to do it all, and it probably wouldn't be viable for that amount of caravan sales to make a profit on. The amount of infrastructure change and monetary you know, kind of value that had to be put into it just probably wouldn't be viable. So that got me thinking, is that okay, there is going to be a, you know, a point where are they going to just bring a product over that looks like the German product or the Polish product or whatever it is, and like I said, just stick a badge on it and throw it over here and hope we buy it. If that is the case, then I would just say, look, there's no point, in my opinion, because the UK market just won't buy it. But like I said, they probably know all that already, so I can't think that that's what's going to happen. But my colleague was fairly sure that nothing was said about whether the door was going to be on the correct side. Now he might have just taken that as a, you know, as not understood the message or whatever. There's so many variables in this, and I say I want to cover myself because I don't want to look stupid by saying all this kind of thing. But what I do have to kind of cover is, where is this viability of product that's going to come over from the continent that it is you know, cheap enough to sell and cheap enough to produce to make a profit on it, without having to completely redesign their factory and get, you know, and teach everyone over there how to build the product that they've been building in the past 4 or 5 years, because obviously there's been different builds, so they would have to train everyone up over there to build that product in that way. And then my theory was that they would install their kind of work ethic and system checking that they've been doing over there to get their quality up into that product. But actually, when you think about it, yeah, that's probably not a viable way of doing it, because it would cost an absolute fortune, and on the small number of sales that it might attract, then it probably isn't viable to do that. So that's what I'm thinking. So as always, it'll be interesting to get your thoughts on that. Would you buy a product with the door on the other side? Now I kind of know the answer to that, because I've been years trying to sell them and given up, and also, you know, there isn't a huge market for that product here, otherwise someone else would have done it already. You know, if that market was viable, with the door on the incorrect side, on the off side, then someone would have done it already. And Hobby would have been able to do it, and even Adria back in the day would have not bothered changing the door over. But yeah, I think, you know, we do buy a certain product in a certain way and we like it, and that's how we like it. Even the upholstery, we spend a lot of time and energy on our upholsteries, and it means a lot to us. When I've said this before, when I went to the hobby factory, all they did was they got some cushions, some foam, cut it, stuffed it in a cover, chucked it in the van. That was their upholstery. And I was kind of like, you know, that's just not good enough for us. You know, when you look at our upholsteries in these caravans, you know, they're a work of art. They're sprung. They've got on the underside, they've got a different kind of material. So when you turn them over to lie on them, you get a nice feel to it. They've got knee rolls. You know, they've got buttons. With the Hobby, it was just kind of flat like that, and it was pretty uncomfortable to sit on. And that's the other thing I tried to get across, was that I said, look, you have to be able to sit in a caravan on a rainy Sunday afternoon, within sight of a TV comfortably, and you have to be able to sit for 3 hours and watch the EastEnders omnibus within reach of a cup of tea. And if you can't do that, then you know you're not going to sell the caravan. And you know, that's the reality of how we like to, you know, what we do in our caravans over here. And you might say, oh no, I don't go on holiday to watch TV, but when I've been selling these caravans, the first question is, where's the bed, and what is the bed? Is it an island bed? Blah, blah, blah. Second question, where does the TV go? Now that is, I mean, the amount of times I've heard that, and I've sold caravans on the basis of where the TV goes, and I've not sold caravans on the basis of where the TV is. So, you know, people like to say they don't go on holiday to watch the TV, but it is a big part of what we do and how we caravan, because you can go away on holiday and it can pour down for 2 weeks, and what else are you going to do? No answers on the postcard, please. So that's what I was thinking. And I might get slated for this. I hope I don't get into trouble for any of it by saying what I think from the factory, from Elddis or anything like that. Only time will tell. We're not going to know anything until there's things come out of the factory and we're being told. But that, you know, and I could be well off the mark, but the message to the factory is, if it is down that end of the scale and you're just going to slap a badge on it and then kick it over here, I would say save your money, don't bother. I think that would be a complete waste of time. The closer it gets to this utopian caravan up the other end here, where it looks exactly like it did last year, but built over there, that is going to be really good. But I think that isn't economically viable. It's going to be hopefully somewhere in the middle. But when you look at the continental people that have tried to do it now, you know, the product, it looked great. They worked really hard on it, but they still couldn't shake that continental feel. Same with Adria. They're a great caravan, but they've still got that continental feel, and people either love it or they hate it, and they don't sell in numbers. They can't compete with Swift, they can't compete with Bailey or Elddis at the time, or Coachman, because they're just too continental. So you have to, if the caravan is being built over there and it is a kind of a hybrid of what they've already got, it has to be far enough away from that product to be able to not try and pull the wool over the UK market's eyes by saying, oh look, we've got this UK caravan, it's built by Elddis. You know, like I think is it like Vauxhall do, where they say it's you know, it's an English caravan car, but I mean it's French. So yeah, that, you know, you can't pull the wool over people's eyes. They will just vote with their feet, and they will go to Swift and Bailey and everywhere else, and they won't buy it unless there's an amazing layout, or there's something else that that they can do. Even the quality side of things, if they can guarantee that you never had a single problem forever, that still isn't enough. I've said this before, that, you know, I was talking about how fantastic the HT product was when it first came out, when they were doing the elegances, and you know, how it wouldn't leak. And I don't know, it's, you know, you could say that wasn't actually the case, but you know, at the time that's what we were told. But the customer didn't like the look of the curtain, so they walked out. So it doesn't matter, because when you buy a new caravan, you're not thinking, and maybe you are these days now because of the social media and the way that we are now thinking maybe of the problems that they're inherently built with. Maybe we are thinking a little bit more like that, and that's why the industry is as it is. But historically, if you're thinking about buying a new caravan, it's got a warranty. You're not thinking about the problems that you're potentially going to get. Otherwise, no one would buy one. So you kind of look at it through rose-tinted glasses, and you think, I'm buying a new caravan, so therefore I'm not going to have any issues with it. And I know with the UK manufacturers, you can't say that, because you know, all you've got to do is go on the forums and see what issues there are. So even if you could guarantee 100% that nothing's going to fail, which you can't do anyway, then it doesn't matter. The product, if it was further down the other end of the scale of just badging up a continental product, then it's just not going to sell in anywhere near the numbers that it needs to. But having said that, if it's cheap enough, if it's easy to produce and cheap enough to produce, and they sell, I don't know what you'd need to sell, 100. I could probably do that in the dealer network anyway. So that would be the other thing, is the first year the dealer network would take it because they would have to. It's the second year when when the dealer network has had to distress sell these things just to get rid of them, they're not going to reorder them. So you'll get the Hymer Group will be able to sell the product into the dealer network because they're going to give it a year to see what happens. But it's that second and third year that where they just won't order it again if they have to distress sell it and get rid of it. So again, just my thoughts, could be absolute rubbish. Only time will tell. And like I said, hopefully I don't get into trouble with the manufacturers for this. And it'd be great to have some clarity, where in that scale is it going to be? Who knows? Only time will tell. But as always, like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you will, inform me as to what you're thinking about this. And am I right? Would you buy a product that is a rebadged continental van? Or is it just would you look at it as I think you probably would, like you have done with all the other manufacturers that have tried to do this, and just kind of say, oh, that's nice, and then walk off and buy a Swift or a Bailey? So that's, hindsight is going to be a marvelous thing. Sorry, train going past. In a few years' time, when I look back at this video and go, oh no, actually that was all a load of bunkum, or it could be actually, I was completely right, and they they did try and bring out a product that and pull the wool over your eyes and say, oh, this is an Elddis, but it's not really. But and that won't work. So let me know in the comments what you think. It's probably getting a bit dark now, the sun's gone down. Hopefully the video is still okay. Let me know what you think, and hopefully I don't get any legal writs in the post saying cease and desist with what you're saying. But it is something that we were having a private conversation with, and I was saying surely they're not going to just do that and bring the van over with the door on the incorrect side and just call it an Elddis. I can't see that. They're not silly people. They know what they're doing. They're clever. So it's just they can look back at history, and they've got the wealth of knowledge in the dealer network. People that I know that I was working with back in the day that have had exactly the same experience with me working at Fleetwood, that are in the dealer network, that could probably tell them the same thing. Even if the hierarchy there now hasn't had the experience themselves, it's really not hard to find it, to speak to some dealers and find out, well, would this work, and see what they say. So yep, sorry about that. I keep going on again. Like, subscribe, and leave your comments. And I'm sure I'm going to probably get some feedback on this and make another video based on that feedback. So we'll see what happens. So see you again. Thank you.